guys, Tracy here, and today I'm going to scrap these 3 photos in 2 layouts using the Studio Calico Summer of '69 kit, which you see me flipping through there. I don't have any add-ons, but I do have the more paper option, the more pattern paper option. And so I've just picked out some coordinating papers there. I knew I wanted that Paper Cottage paper by Basic Gray for my background. And then I just picked out a variety of other papers from the kit that just used some of the colors. I actually picked up the colors in the kids' clothing. And these are pictures from my daughter's field trip in grade primary. So these pictures are over a year old. I rarely ever scrap old photos, but sometimes when I'm looking through my photos, a really good one catches my eye. And if that's the case, I just print it up and scrapbook it. And so I'm using a Jenny Bolin background stamp there just to create a little bit of an extra layer on my background paper. And I do end up covering up almost all of that. I'm going to outline this paper and I'm just going to interrupt the outline with dots just for something a little bit different. And sorry, I zoom in here and I end up staying zoomed in for a little bit too long, so you're only going to see part of what I'm doing here, but basically I'm just lining up the photos and yeah, I knew there were 3 there, but I couldn't I seemed to only have 2, but one of them did peel away, so that was good. I didn't end up using the doilies on this layout, although I was going to. That's a piece of shoreline paper, American Crafts from the Shoreline collection. And I love that red, and it's very similar to the red in some of the kids' clothing. And I find it hard to describe colors, but it's kind of a tomatoey red. And I really like it. It's sort of, I can't tell if it's pink or red. It's just really nice, and I love the vibrance of it. So I am just sizing it right because I wanted some of the stamping to show through, and I really don't have much wiggle room there because there's not much stamping showing. So I wanted that layer to be quite small. And just laying out the photos so that they are a little bit askew as opposed to lined up. I wanted this layout to have a more casual look. I thought about going with that flowered paper instead of the chevron, but I really like the graphic look of the chevron. I wasn't sure if I'd like 2 chevron patterns right beside each other like that, but I didn't mind it, so I went with it. Yeah, so the layout's coming together pretty much. I mean, this is pretty much what it's going to look like when it's done. The rest is really just embellishing. And I knew I wanted to use those circles from Studio Calico. I was pretty sure I wanted some type of a journaling spot that was rectangular. So I have that little paper bag from the kit out, and I also have that white card with the red arrow on it. And then I'm looking at those paint circles and thinking maybe I'll do some journaling on those. Cut off 2 strips of those circles, and I was going to do a similar thing to what I did with the Big Evil Grin layout where I just put part of a shape along the top and the bottom, but it ended up being too much, so I didn't end up doing that. But I did definitely want a strip of the circles, so I just did some outlining to make the circles stand out a little bit. And I didn't outline I guess the outside of the strip, I just outlined the circles. And then I just popped it in there, took off the manufacturer's strip, and then I just glued it in place. And so now I'm taking the time to do the same thing with outlining on these little pieces. Even though I'm not going to end up using them, I'll hang on to them for something else. And I do like this look, but I ended up going with something else. You'll see what I ended up doing. And so again, now I'm kind of just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my journaling. And I went to my trimmer there and trimmed off a couple pieces of that floral paper. I was just thinking it would be nice to add a floral element to this layout because it was very graphic with the chevrons and the circles, and the doilies are big circles on the background paper. but again, I didn't end up doing that. And then I decided to use these chipboard buttons, which are from the Chip and Stick sheet from Woodland Park, which is by October Afternoon. They came in the kit. And I needed to outline them because they were really blending in with the background. They're just such similar colors because that chevron paper is also from the Woodland Park collection, and so they're just such similar shades that I had to outline it because I love outlining things. And then I just wanted to mix them up a little bit so it wasn't, small, small, big, small, small, big. Wanted the buttons to look a little bit more random than that. And I'm really loving that paper bag that's got the lined paper on it. And I'm just experimenting there with what what marker I needed to use because my American Crafts Precision pen was a little bit streaky on it, and so I needed to use my Stettler Lumo color, which is a slick surface writer, but I just wanted to make sure that it wouldn't bleed too much because those slick writers, when you use them on too porous of a surface, they do have a tendency to bleed. So that bag was kind of in between slick and porous, so I just wanted to make sure that the marker wouldn't bleed too much. Then I just went ahead and stuck down all of those chipboard buttons. I just stuck them down and I didn't even take the holes out of them just because I wanted to just kind of leave them that way because I knew I was going to leave my letters that way too. And then I grabbed that tag, that blue and brown tag is, or whatever that thing is, maybe it's a little envelope pocket thingy. It's from an old Studio Calico kit. I say old, I've only been a member for a couple of months, but it was from one of the first ones that I got, maybe March or April. And then I grabbed a Clementine card there from Becky Higgins, which I just got that kit in the mail that day, and so I was kind of pumped to use it, but it didn't work for this layout. Then I finally decided to go with washi tape as my kind of top embellishment instead of a strip of paper, and I wanted the washi tape to kind of go down the side with a variety of different patterns. And so I chose the blue, the yellow, and the red because all those colors were in the layout already. That red is not an exact match, but it's the closest that I had. So then I decided, I kind of in the back of my head, I knew that that little space of background paper that was showing below the buttons, because that strip of circled paper kind of came down and intersected that space, I knew I needed to do something to fill it in, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So once I put the washi tape on the top, it made it a kind of a natural decision to put the washi tape in that space as well. And it just happens that those three pieces fit perfectly there. I didn't extend all three pieces all the way over, and so right now I'm just adding a couple of pieces because it was a little distracting having the washi tape end under the word beach. So now I'm just laying out my title using wax paper, and my title is going to be A Field Trip to the Beach. And so I broke my title up into A Field Trip To, and then the beach is the part that I've already done underneath. And now I finally decide what I'm going to do with that tag. So I outlined it and attached it onto my journaling piece, and now I'm gluing the whole thing down. So it's always nice when a layout starts to actually come together and be glued down, and you know that you're done with it because I find it kind of, I guess it's a little overwhelming when everything is up in the air and every time you move something, everything else moves around. So it's always nice to start laying things down and actually attaching them because it's kind of a nice solidification of the process. Maybe I'm analyzing it too much. I tend to do that. So I'm really liking how this is turning out. I use those red letters, by the way, are basic gray chipboard letters from the kit. And then the pink smaller letters are October Afternoon mini market stickers. They're tone on tone pink, and I love them. And so now I was thinking about using some arrows to somehow, direct your attention to the fact that this title continues lower down on the layout. And then I decided that I would use twine to do that. And of course it's in the middle of the layout, so I hate doing this, but I had to use my tiny attacher in this way, which always frightens me because sometimes it doesn't work so well for me. I don't know. Maybe other people have a better method of doing it, but sometimes I end up kind of bending my layout or my photo or whatever. And now I'm using glossy accents, and I don't know what I was thinking. I should have used the Tombow Mono because the glossy accents is quite shiny, and I always find that it really draws attention to the places where, I mean, you're bound to go outside of the lines when you're gluing something like twine down to your layout, and I just find that the Tombow Mono adhesive, that it's that green container that I sometimes use, the Mono Multi. It won't shine, at least where it oozes out around the twine. And so, yeah, if I had to do it over again, I would have chosen a different adhesive there, but it doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's just a couple places if you're looking really closely. I probably notice more than anyone else would, and I always try to tell myself that when I mess up a layout. I always try to remind myself that it's probably only me who notices those things. And so then I picked out those Studio Calico wood veneer icon people, and I normally, it's just kind of habit to go like boy, girl, boy, girl. But the people in this photo, the grown-ups, are not a couple. It's actually my husband and my neighbor from across the street. So I didn't want to put them together because it looks kind of like they're a couple. Um, and so instead I put like because they were parent chaperones for the field trip, I put kind of, a parent on each end of the kids. And then the kids happen to be best friends with each other. So the two girls are best friends. So I put Scott next to the two girls and then Joanne next to the two boys because her son and his best friend were in the group. So here's just a close-up of this layout. You are going to see, I'm going to add one thing to this at the end, and I kind of knew it might not be entirely finished because my plan was to use the scraps from this layout to scrapbook the third photo that came from this field trip that I wanted to scrap. And so now I'm going to do that. And because I have the More Pattern Paper add-on, I was able to use the same background paper, which is convenient, and it's unusual. So I don't usually get the More Pattern Paper add-on, so I wanted to take advantage of the fact that I had that for this. And so there you just see me kind of working with the shapes. And here my design is really being dictated by the shape and size of the scraps that I have left. More than anything else, I'm just kind of going with what shapes I've got and putting them together and cutting them down and that sort of thing. And I do want them to look okay in my book together, but it's not a two-page layout. So I'm not doing it in the same way that I would do a two-page layout where I try to, bring elements over and across the page and make it look like one unified page. I really wanted it to be clear that these are two different pages, and so that's why I decided to use the back side of that Paper Cottage paper by Basic Gray. So more of the chevron paper, which is from the October Afternoon collection, and also more of those circles, which are from Studio Calico, and more of that red shoreline paper. And I was able to use that doily. I don't use doilies much because I don't usually have them, but some people have sent me some doilies, and also there were some in the kit this month, and those are the ones that are appearing in this layout, are the ones from the kit. So that allows me to kind of stretch my creative muscles a little bit and use some supplies that I'm not used to using, which is always really fun, although sometimes it's a little awkward when you first start using something for the first time, but awkward in a good way. So I did decide to distress the edges of all of these papers, and I just wanted to mention that when you're both distressing and outlining, it's much, much easier to do your outlining on distressed paper because it's harder to go off the edge. And so I would suggest that if you're gonna do both of those, that you should do your distressing first and your outlining second. It just makes the outlining go way faster. And the reason I distressed these pages, I usually leave them crisp, but because it was a beach layout, I thought it kind of went with the beachy theme, kind of shabby. And so this one came together fairly quickly, mostly because, as I said, I was dictated by the scraps I had, and so I just went with what I had. And I didn't want that. I didn't want the photo to be too centered on the circles, so that's why I repositioned it there. And now I was going to use my larger stapler here, and then I realized as soon as I put the first staple in that my staples in there are blue. And so rather than changing my staples, I just decided to do the same thing with my tiny attacher, which, as I mentioned, I don't love to do that, but um, I wanted to get that twine looking really messy. And I find stapling just the easiest way to do that. And then I'm just using my scissors to fold over the little staple. So what I did was I stapled into a piece of foam, and then I just turn it over and bend the staples over with, I usually use my fingernails, but I just done my nails, so I didn't want to. So I just used my scissors. And sorry, I forgot to zoom out here, so some of this is happening off screen, but I'm just laying out my stickers. Those are, again, the October Afternoon Mini Market stickers that came in the kit. I believe both of these layouts came almost entirely from the kit, maybe entirely from the kit. So it says best teacher ever. And then, at the time, we really did feel like Mrs. Lones was the best teacher ever, and she may be the best primary teacher ever, but we also really, really loved our grade primary teacher. Our grade one teacher, which we, had the subsequent year. And so, I do add a subtitle there just to clarify that, we do love Miss Keefe as well. So it says best teacher ever. And, when you've only had one teacher, it might be easy to be the best teacher ever. But we were so impressed with her. She has expertise in early literacy, and so all the kids were reading within days of starting grade primary. It was amazing to see the leaps and bounds in Olivia's reading in particular. And just, I volunteered in the classroom that year, and to just see her working with the kids was unbelievable. So I got Olivia to write Miss Sloanus's name at the top there, just to have a sample of her writing, and also to just remember the name of the teacher in case we're looking at this so far from now that we forget that. I can't imagine forgetting Miss Lones, but yeah, I guess it's possible. So then I didn't need the whole tab, so I just took the bottom part off of, that's one of the tags that came with the kit, and I outlined it. And then I just added some journaling. It actually says something like "Until we met Miss Keefe," and then I added another tag. This is from a previous kit. It's also a Studio Calico tag. It's actually a tab, I guess, that says "They tie for the best," because they're really awesome. Miss Keefe was amazing too. So I thought about using some washi tape there just to, because there was washi tape on the other page, I wanted to bring some of the elements across the page. And so I knew something was missing from that title because there was a space under that triangle that needed something. So I had to figure out a flare badge to go, and you saw me I wasn't entirely in love with that flare badge, but oftentimes I will put a little cross of washi tape underneath of an embellishment, and it just kind of anchors it on the page and makes it look a little bit less floaty. So once I added that washi tape, it did two things. It brought the washi tape across the page from the other layout, and it also anchored the flare badge, so it didn't look like it was floating like that. So here's a close-up of this one. You see the intricate, I love that doily is just so beautiful. And I added a little punched heart and one of the Prima blings that came in the kit. And then there's my subtitle, "Until we met Mrs. Keefe, they tie for best." And now I kind of felt like I needed something else on this layout. So I was going to put a flare badge, and that was one that came with the kit. It's like a pink herringbone, and yeah, then I quickly went with that arrow because the other title has arrows, triangles, they're not really arrows, but has triangles pointing to the title, and so I wanted to put a triangle on this one too. So I did the kind of the same thing that I did with the flare badge, where I just put a little heart attached to the arrow because the arrow was kind of plain as it was, and then added one of the little Prima white blings from the kit as well. And so, and this is the finished product. So I really love how those veneer people look above that title. And then just going to show this one again. And so these layouts were really fun to do. And the second one, I have to say, came together so quickly. It probably took an hour to do the second one. So usually my layouts take about 2 hours to do. So that was pretty not bad, 3 hours for 2 layouts. So thanks for watching, guys.